Yo, what is going on, guys? TymeStopper here, coming back at you another Raid Shadow Legends video. Guys, in this video, we're going to be talking about another version of the Sky Eater, Bat Eater, whatever you want to call it, Eater, that is taking over the Sand Devil's Necropolis. And there's a bunch of different versions that you're going to be able to do on this. I'm going to show you one today that I'm calling the CrimsonEater. That's right, so let's jump into the video. Okay, so first and foremost, you may have already seen this video right here by Murder Inc. talking about the Sky Eater comp, and you may have also seen a version of it right here that Smiley TK did called the Light Eater. Well, of course, both of these, they've given credit to a man over on Reddit. A man? I don't know if he's a man. Did I just assume his gender in 2022? I think I did. But someone over on Reddit, right here is the original post you can see where he started theory crafting this comp. And as always, you know, the community reaches out and they start messing around with stuff and figure out some other stuff and figure out how to do it better. So I'm not saying my way is better. I'm saying that here's another version of it if you don't have Sky Touched or Light Swarm, since they are both void epics. They are a little bit harder to get a hold of. And the truth is, because so many people used Crimson Helm to cheese Bommel already, a lot of people already have this champion. Maybe not with the books in the right places. We're going to talk about that briefly, but I wanted to give everybody another option. It is an epic champion, but it's not a void epic, so it is a little bit easier to get a hold of, hopefully, for some of you guys. And truth be told, there's going to be a lot of different versions of this that come out, because when you start thinking about how this mechanic works and things like that, there's going to be a ton of different ways you can run this. I've already seen the comments on some of Murder Inc. and Smiley's videos where people are talking about how, well, that's all well and good, now I just need to pull a man-eater. Well, the truth is you don't really need a man-eater. When you start thinking about the whole idea of this, the man-eater only serves a purpose of making you unkillable, right? Because the Sand Devil himself has that mechanic where he's going to whop you, which is why you're going to use a Revive on Death champion. And then the other champions, you just need to keep yourself unkillable. Now, in Murder Inc.'s version of it, the Sky Eater, he uses Sky Touch Shaman. So with that version, you definitely need a Man-Eater because you need some way to keep the fear off of her. But if you're not using Sky Touch Shaman, there's no fear because no one's fearing themselves. So in theory, you could use any two unkillable or block damage champions that are on a 5-turn cooldown to make this work. Now, the reason that I'm using Man-Eaters is because simply they're already built on my account because I run Bat Eater. So let's hop into this and see what I'm talking about. I'm going to go ahead and talk super briefly. Now, if you want a complete breakdown on this, I think Murder Inc. does an excellent job on his video if you want to go kind of take a look there. But I'm going to briefly go over what I did on mine real quick, and we'll take a look at how that works out. So, of course, I do have both of my Man-Eaters that I use for the Bat Eater comp, right? So I have both of mine are built in Fury gear, by the way. So you don't need to be in Fury gear, but he's going to take all my HP, so I figure it probably helps just a little bit. So you have my fast Man-Eater from it. So this Man-Eater here is running at 268 for me. Again, this is just my Bat Eater Man-Eater, nothing special, okay? So whatever speed you need for Bat Eater, this is going to be the exact same Man-Eater. You can obviously go check those out on Deadwood Jedi's website. Great resource for all of that. You'll have I also have my other Man-Eater, what I call my slow Man-Eater. Again, this one right now is running at 241 speed. Of course, I have both of them at 100% crit rate. They have crit damage on them, etc., etc. So they're definitely built to do damage. I kind of go a little overboard with my Bat Eater, but that's neither here nor there. I have a Painkeeper that I slightly modified super quick to make this work, just because mine was running a little bit different in Bat Eater. But you'll see that I have my Painkeeper just in random gear, nothing special. She's at 244 speed. Now, this is my version of it without Sky Touch Shaman because I'm not going to rely on healing at all. This version is definitely going to take a little bit longer when I do it, and part of that is because I don't have a blessing yet on Septimus, which mistake on my part. I had an option to buy it once before, but I just wasn't using them enough, so I didn't. So I'm going to have to wait for that to come back around. And also my Septimus, ideally you would have your Septimus in some reflex gear or some refresh accessories so he can get around to his big nuke quicker, and I don't have mine geared like that yet. So I'm going to work on that because my run is pretty slow, but it still works. So I kind of wanted to get it out there real quick so that everybody knows that they can kind of do it their own way, right? So you can see I just have them in random gear. Again, I'm just trying to hit the speeds. So for your Painkeeper, you're going to want your Painkeeper between 240 and probably about 246, I think is what I worked out to be for the most part. Anything more than that, it's going to run into some problems if you're running the Bat Eater where she's using Retribution and things like that. So I wouldn't go any higher than that. But you can do this here. I have my Septimus running at 243. So my Painkeeper's at 244. Septimus is running 243. So 1 speed slower because I want my Painkeeper to go first in the rotation. Now, is that super essential? I don't know, but it's kind of using a lot of the mechanics from Murder Inc.'s video. And even though I'm not healing with Painkeeper, I'm still making it work. And when you see what I mean by I'm not healing, I'm literally going to lose all of my HP on this. So we've got the 2 Man-Eaters, we've got Painkeeper, we've got Septimus, and then I'm using Crimson Helm. So again, Crimson Helm, all these champs are fully booked out except for Crimson Helm. So the most important thing is this, is that you're going to need a Revive on Death champion. In this case, for me, it's Crimson Helm. And that Revive on Death skill has to be on a 5-turn cooldown. So there's 3 champions that I know of so far. The Skytouch Shaman, if she's not fully booked out. Light Sworn, if he's not booked. And Crimson Helm, if she's not fully booked. Because if you have her fully booked here, this is not going to be on a 5-turn cooldown. This will not work. She needs to be on a 5-turn cooldown for these speeds. Now, there may be other speeds that we find out later that make this work, but right now, this is where we're at. And then her speed needs to be anywhere from about 270 to about 273. 274 might work. I haven't gotten to try that one yet, but I am going to end up re-gearing her. As you can see, I didn't put any masteries on her. I just threw on some random gear real quick just so that I could get proof of concept. And then obviously I'm going to go back and, you know, tweak it and things like that to make the run faster because my run is insanely long right now. Partly because I don't have any... When you're hitting the Sand Devil, you're not doing enough damage to him unless you're hitting him, in this case with Septimus, on stage 25. Now, I've seen a lot of people that are like, oh, well, it's well and good. This is all great and everything. This works on stage 25. What about the earlier stages? Well, so far from what I found, you can adjust those to basically be the lower speeds and still have it work for you. You only have to do each of those stages once. If you can make this comp, you're not going to be running stage 21, 22, 23, 24. You're going to be running stage 25 most of the time. So you only have to do them one time. And while it might cost you a boatload of silver, all you would really have to do if you needed to still clear stage 21 is take all of these speeds and make them 20 speeds slower, because we know that the Sand Devil is 20 speeds slower on stage 21 as an example. On stage 25, he's 270 speed. That's why we're using these speeds. At stage 21, he's 250 speed. So we would just knock him down 20. The turn rotation will still be the same. Everything will still be the same because the skills will still be happening at the same time. Yes, it's going to cost you some silver, but again, you only have to do it one time. You do not have to keep doing those stages. So don't focus so hard on that. Just focus on getting to stage 25 so that you can accomplish this in the long run, right? Now, when we go over here to the dungeon real quick, I don't want to keep you guys forever, so we're going to go over here to stage 25. We're going to take a look real quick at how the setup is on this. And so, again, with Septimus, we don't have anything special on him. We just have his regular skills. Our fast Man-Eater, because he is going less than 270, we want him to open with his Ancient Blood skill, so that everything ends up in the right rotation later. And you'll see that when this kind of goes off or whatever. So for me, I just want to open with it at 268. If he was 270, 271, then I would actually open with his A1 skill instead. So I want to force him to open here. We want to make sure that his A2 is shut off. We don't want to do any turn meter depletion or anything like that. On the slower man-eater, if you will, we're going to have him open with his A1. Again, we're going to turn off his A2. And then we're just going to run his Ancient Blood skill normally. Our Painkeeper, again, she's at 244. I have her opening with her Spectacular Sweep. And everything else is just normal. And then last but not least, we have Crimson Helm. And Crimson Helm, we have at 271. And we have her opening with her Revive on Death skill. Super important that she's at 270, 271, 272. Because you need her to go first so that when he does his first wipe, you have that Revive on Death that's already up. He's going to wipe you. You're going to Revive on Death. And then you're going to fall into cycle. And you'll see what I mean here in just a moment. So we're going to go ahead and fire this thing up here. And take a look at what we got. So, whoops, we're going pretty fast. As you can see, we did the Revive on Death. He puts himself to sleep. I'm going to put this on 1 time for right now. Doesn't really matter. She's doing her block damage. We've got Man-Eater puts up his Unkillable. Painkeeper went. Septimus with the smack. Second Man-Eater comes in. Smack. Now, here, he's going to do that. But we already had Unkillable up from all of our champions, right? And again, it could have been any champion. This guy doesn't put debuffs on us, right? He puts a debuff on himself, but he doesn't put debuffs on us. So we don't have to worry about having block debuffs up. So if you don't have 2 Man-Eaters here, doesn't matter. As long as you have 2 champions that you can put on a 5-turn cooldown that are either have block damage or unkillable so that they end up in that cycle and you can keep doing this, okay? So let's put this on auto, watch it a little bit here. You can see we're going in. Man-Eater, boom, hits him. Painkeeper, Septimus with the smack, and bam, we're unkillable. He hits us, no big deal. Now, at first, he's going to be doing this A2 skill, and it's going to look like we're not really making much progress, and that's what kind of takes so long on this. Because basically what happens is when he does his A2 skill here, for every bit of HP we've lost, he's going to heal. But for whatever reason, he's actually going to stop doing that A2 skill here, which is why this works without Skytouch Shaman. So if you watch the Murder Inc. video when he talks about using Skytouch Shaman, he's relying on Skytouched replacing this missing HP here. I don't need to worry about that because I'm unkillable all the time, so it doesn't really matter much to me. Now, it's definitely making it take longer for me because I am getting some heals at the very beginning. He says that he does it in like 4 to 6 minutes, I think, in his video. And right now, this run is taking me nearly 12. So certainly not as fast as his, but it still works nonetheless. So if you don't have a Skytouch Shaman and your Septimus or whoever you want to use as your damage dealer doesn't have a blessing, it's definitely going to take you longer, but it's still doable. And the reality is that you could run this overnight or what have you. I'm only using Septimus here because he does have the big enemy max HP hits. So like there, you can see he did 125,000 damage. So much better against Force Affinity. In theory, you could actually build him to about 85% crit rate and it would still be okay. But for me, I use him other places, not a ton, but I do use him a couple other places. So I wanted to make sure that he's all well and good. So as you can see, we're just chugging along here. You're going to notice that my enemy max HP is going to eat away my entire bar. There literally will be nothing left at one point. Not a big deal either way. But yeah, super simple. You can just see it just kind of goes on its way. It's just falling into that rotation. So I'm going to let this run for a minute. I'm going to speed up through it so that you don't have to sit here in real time for it. And I will be right back when we're all done with it. All right, and as you can see, we have come to the end there. Now, it said it took about 17 minutes, but if you take 3 or 4 off of that from us playing around at the very beginning, you can see it's not the fastest run in the world, but we're definitely getting it done here. Septimus with the bulk of the damage, both the man-eaters. Now, a couple things I could do to make this faster. Obviously, Septimus, if he had Brimstone, much, much faster. Massive chunks of damage coming off, because as you can see, all these guys are only hitting for around 3,000 or 4,000 at a time, no matter what their gear is, except for when Septimus does his big slam. Second thing is, right now in my Bat Eater comp, I run it with my Seeker having Cruelty, dropping the defense of the clan boss. What I'm going to do is, after this is done, I'm going to go ahead and swap out and put Phantom Touch on my Seeker and just run Cruelty on one of these man-eaters. That way we can, you know, ratchet down the defense a little bit on the Sand Devil as well. It won't be a ton, but hey, every little bit's going to help, and it's going to make it that much faster. So all definitely things we could do. Now, one last thing I wanted to do before we go. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the speeds, and there is some flexibility there. I do want to make sure that we also take a look at masteries. Nothing special on the masteries. We got Septimus with my normal masteries that I was using. I didn't change anything here. I think I was using this for Hydra at one point. So that's what I had him in. My man-eaters are both in their masteries that I use for my Bat Eater comp. So as you can see, nothing special from either of my man-eaters. And if I hide myself real quick, you can see that I'm using War Master down there. Then we go over to our Painkeeper. You can see these again are just my regular masteries that I use for my Bat Eater comp. I do run Retribution, which is why what I was talking about earlier. So for extra damage in my Bat Eater comp, which is why I have it set up the way that I do with the speeds and whatnot. And then last but not least, we have Crimson Helm, and as you can see, we don't even have any masteries. Honestly, all I did was I dropped a couple books until I got this booked to a 5-turn cooldown. I threw some gear and ran with it. Like, it's not optimized for damage or anything like that. I mean, she does have some defense on there, 100% crit rate, but I didn't really do much with it because I didn't know if it was going to work at first, and I didn't want to, you know, sit there and play around with it and do everything until I had it 100%. So, as you can see, not the fastest in the entire world, but it definitely works. Again, big shout out to the others that have already come up with the teams. The original from over on Reddit that I showed earlier, again, I'll link to it in the video notes down below. Murder Inc.'s video with the Sky Eater and Smiley TK's videos with the Light Eater, and now we've got the Crimson Eater, and I'm sure there's going to be a ton of other versions of this. So if you guys come up with any champions or anything like that that you find that are going to work with this, obviously any damage dealer works here. I just use Septimus because he's positive affinity in here, makes it much quicker and things like that. The best champion is probably a Crizia. I don't have a Crizia, so we're running with Septimus right now. But if you guys come up with any other champs that this works with or any other versions of it, let me know in the comments down below. Let's get this out there. Let's start sharing this information around so that as we come up with more versions, it's there to help everybody. This is a very, very difficult dungeon as it is. And the sheer fact that we can use 3 champions that we already have geared for other content in the same gear is fantastic. Not the fastest yet, but I'm sure we'll get there. But guys, I do want to thank you guys so much for watching. Of course, if you didn't make it all the way to the end, be sure to leave a thumbs up on the video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, as always, until next time, be good.